I think that's the bottleneck, right? Like a founder will eventually become the bottleneck to growth.
Right.
That's why you need like, really good investors, really good friends, really like that's the conversation is when can you be the, accelerator rather than the bottleneck.
I'm Jake Aaron Villarreal, born and raised in Silicon Valley, and here to take you behind the scenes to share what it's like to be a startup founder, the journey they're on, the problems they face, the products they build in an effort to make our lives better. I'm excited to have with us today Omri Mor, co-founder and CEO of Routable. Omri, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on here. We've been actually working and supporting you over the years, and helping you fill roles and place people on the recruitment side. And it's just crazy. This is actually the first time we've met face to face, although we've had a lot of async conversations. And I want to talk a little bit about how you delegate, because I think you do an incredible job of that. We'll jump into that later in the process.
Sounds
Uh,
good.
so just a little bit more about Omri. He leads the company, which is, if my numbers are accurate, you've raised $100 million. Is that accurate? Yep. To automate B2B payments for modern finance teams and much more. A serial entrepreneur and listed as a top 50 finance influencer in 2024 for leadership in AP automation. Excited to have with us today, Omri. In terms of where you're dialing in from, where are you joining us from today? All right, I love Seattle. In fact, I'll be up there hopefully in a couple of weeks. So really exciting to have you join here. We've known each other in collaboration for a long time, but I want to share with the audience a little bit about your background. And so we'll talk a little bit about your origin story. But, you mentioned in the early days, in Tel Aviv, a pivotal conversation over hummus that sparked the creation of Routable. Can you
Yep.
walk us through that a little bit and how that conversation shaped your approach to solving what we call
Sure.
B2B payments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that my co-founder and I, like getting hummus in Tel Aviv is very similar to getting coffee here. It's a much heavier meal and it takes a much longer time because you can't get up afterwards. My co-founder and I were both post-exit at our previous companies, and we really just talked about the things that we didn't like doing at our previous startups, right? And Jake, what was really important was that probably spent 70% of our conversation talking about the state of business payments and the amount of internal tools you have to build to make moving money and making your finance and ops teams happy. So from the engineering side, it was relatively easy for us. From the making sure that everybody got their say on how the tool should work, it was very difficult. That sparked the conversation. That started the customer interviews. You get the gist. We
Yeah.
continued from there. Yeah.
When I started this podcast, I had this vision to go behind the scenes to share what it's like to be a startup founder in Silicon Valley, where I'm born and raised. And weekly, we dive deep in the trenches to find the wins, the losses, and the lessons learned, with the hopes that it helps you run a better startup. But here's the thing. If you've gotten any value out of these conversations or been inspired at all, hit the subscribe button. And I get it. Your podcast feed's probably overflowing. But to stay up to date what's going on in Silicon Valley, stick with us. Because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to build something that matters. And we're better when we do it together. So hit that subscribe button and follow us wherever you find your podcasts. Now, let's get back to the show. Yeah. Well, customer interviews are critically important. Sometimes you kind of get a couple interviews into it and you go, okay, I think I actually have a product here. Sometimes you go, hundreds deep. How long was that process for you till you felt like you had a product that there was a market for?
I think that we knew within the first like 50 that there was a market for it. We continued to about 300 and we did 9 months. I think the big difference here was that we wanted to get to a point where we knew what to build. I think there's a big difference, Jake, between doing customer development interviews to validate a market and validate an MVP. Like a lot of people might do 25 calls, get pumped about a market, ship a product, and then like pivot to understand what to build. We didn't want to write code before we had like a really good understanding of what to build, if that makes sense. I think the hard thing about being an engineer is you can build. That's like both a gift and a curse. Because you can build, you might take some of the shortcuts and like we still shipped fast. but we delayed our time to start writing code to truly understand what's mission critical, what we can leave out, and if we could only release one thing for the upcoming year, could we get to 50, 100 customers and so forth? So we really focused on that.
And when you're talking about getting all those interviews, I mean, you're taking someone's time on the other side. So, what was in it for the customers or the prospects to say, okay, yeah, I'll tell you about my business or I'll share what we're going through and here's the problem we're trying to solve. What do you got for me? Like, how does that start?
This is very simple. You ask one person in your network, you interview them, and then you ask them for an intro to three other people. So we got from 1 to 300 that way. And you tell them up front that you're looking for design partners, that you're not trying to sell them anything, and you're really focused on just education. You're basically saying, I'm not sure if I should build this, but I would love to interview you. And that's an authentic non-sales conversation that allows you to actually churn out your first customers, right?
I love that. Well, talk a little bit about the space because look, at the end of the day, it's invoices that are you're automating payments for. So, if you're a company that's got 10 invoices a month, I'm not sure that is a fit. But if you have hundreds or thousands a month, it's a pain in the ass, right? Like,
Yep. And I think that was the thing too. Thousands equals humans have issues. Makes sense. So like for me, it was we really wanted to kind of index on, okay, do we build a company for mom and pops making 5 payments a month? There's a market for that. There's a lot of great companies around it. Or do we want to take our engineering chops and really orient on the next step, right? So that's all.
so for the listeners that aren't really that familiar with this space, it's complex and underserved. How does Routable make the process dramatically easier for a company that maybe you've got QuickBooks or you got, an ERP and, you have people working in accounts payable, but what are you going to give them that they are going to say, you know what? Let's take what we have and put it aside, or let's integrate Routable into how we operate today and make our lives better.
I think it always starts with the question of where is the biggest pain point. So I'll give you an example. Let's talk about two different examples. Let's talk about a company that has 10,000 invoices and all of their payments are domestic and all of their payments are to businesses. Just like everything looks the same. There, most likely, your pain and the crux of the issue is around data ingestion, approvals, timeliness, record keeping integrated to the ERP, right? Now let's shift that to same company doing 10,000 invoices a month and 70% of their payments are to like India, Pakistan, and let's just say like, the Emirates. Now their problem is going to probably be focused around payments. And I think what's the really interesting thing is that when you talk to a company, you have to think about it from this lens. There's going to be the procurement process of do I want to pay? Like, or let's take even a step back. Do I want to record this liability? Do I want to say to my ERP, I owe money? Then there's the approval process of are we ready to pay this? Is this the correct amount? Is it not fraudulent? All that stuff. Then there's the payment side, and then there's the reconciliation. The more we dug into that process, Jake, the more we saw that different teams had different issues at different parts of the workflows. We started with payments because that was our background, but now we've built the full end-to-end flow, right? So ideally, if you have 10,000 invoices, 10,000 payments, thousands of vendors, and you're thinking about growth too. And I think that's one of the things that we found out. No finance team thinks about growth
Mm,
because they're stuck just doing their work. Yeah, you get the gist.
yeah. So you said there was two use cases. That's one. Is there another use case?
Well, so sorry, I was just trying to compare 10,000 payments domestic versus 10,000 payments
Got it.
international.
Okay.
Those are the two use cases, right?
Okay.
Domestic, we mostly have solved how to send money domestically. It just might be annoying. You might just be doing it as a flat file through your bank, which is extremely inefficient and makes failed payments and reconciliation hard. Internationally, we're not there yet. That's why there's a huge conversation on stablecoins right now, right? Is because we're still trying to figure out how to make a payment from the US to anywhere or from any country to any country as easy as getting a Zelle payment, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we've actually had other companies, other startups on the show that all they do is remittances from the US to like Mexico, for example, which is, it's not companies paying bills, it's really people just sending money from, myself to my family. And it's like huge numbers. I think it was like 60 billion annually a year just to Mexico. And so that's, there's
Yeah, there's a new bill that just made that tougher, right? They like imposed a tax on that now, which is going to make that really, really difficult.
Yeah, and there's a lot of transition happening. So when you talk about global payments, do you see that as like a bigger opportunity from a company that's a global entity that's doing business around the world where now you're solving a different problem than domestic and with the complexities out there, like what's the competition look like for you?
There's definitely a lot of competition. However, there's less competition that could do global and finance. So I think that was like the crux of why we started the business. We said moving money is a Rails problem. Recording money movement is a finance problem. Most platforms are built for one or the other. There are platforms that are built for both, but they're like really built for like a few hundred payments a month, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
We said, okay, there's enough of the business ecosystem that moves thousands of transactions a month and they need to record it. How do we service that specifically? So we found out that we do pretty well. If you need to move 100,000 transactions around the world, domestic, international combination, you need to do P2P payments, you need to do instant payments, all that stuff. We stack up pretty well because we're able to take your engineering team, your operations teams, your finance team, put them in one room and say, is this how you want to move money? And get every decision maker to say yes, yes, yes.
Wow. That's great. You did bring up stable coins, and I know it's evolving with,
Mhm.
crypto and companies really diving into that area. Like, what's the opportunity there that you see with Routable?
Two things. One, I think that stable coins could change our internal infrastructure. I think a lot of the time when we talk about stable coins, we talk about benefit to customer, but there's also benefit to us. You're also seeing like banks starting to talk about that. I think that stable coins could make ledgering and speed easier for us for internal money movement, tracking, and so forth. The second benefit is it's relatively obvious. If I pay you right now and you live in Argentina, you might want to hold your funds before continuing to receive your cash, right?
Hmm.
Due to instability with currencies. And today, like you might be forced to get paid on PayPal or Payoneer in order to receive that transaction. Stablecoins make it so essentially anybody with a phone can receive money anywhere, anytime. And the management and the cost to manage that money is a lot more up to you,
Yeah, I know we have an office in Argentina, and every single time we hire people, they're asking us, can you pay us in crypto, or can you can you pay?
right? I love that I use that example because that's exactly it, right?
Yeah, it's another paradigm, but it's also a system that I think is going to have a lot of impact globally and for the benefit. There's so much conversation around AI and automation and workflow automation versus true AI agents that are helping operate a business or a function or an entity. What What's your engagement or experience with AI? Was it from the beginning that Routable was using AI, or have you evolved to
It
embed?
definitely evolved. I don't think that there's very few companies that are from the beginning, right? So right now, I look at it two lanes. One, what can you do to improve your company internally using different LLMs, agents, etc. We actually have a monthly hackathon, Jake.
Mm,
Every month, there's a hackathon to see who can build the best things for internal tools and who can build the best feature for customers. And I myself am participating too,
oh wow,
right? Yeah, it's fun. That's kind of how I think about it. As an operator, you should think about what parts of your job function can you improve significantly with, plug-in. term and AI, right? And then on the flip side, I think for the customer, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to say what part of our workflow sucks the most or takes the most time, and how can we speed it up by ensuring data accuracy or less data entry or summarization of content, right? You want to get to a point where, I'll give you an example. Back in the day, in the 80s, Jake, you would get a stack of invoices and it would come from somebody that would have already reviewed them. And they'd be like, hey, Jake, can you just spot check a few of these? We want to get these at the door. And you'd say these are approved. And then that stack of paper would move to another person, right? Today, we have the, hey, Jake, here's a stack of invoices. Can you spot check these? But that's still manual. There's no summarization of what are the erroneous errors, stuff like that, right? There's a lot of opportunity just to cut down the time to review and increase the time to confidence with AI. So we're really working on that. We just released a feature that is really oriented on doing data entry on your behalf, Jake.
Mhm.
So there's a big difference between OCR, which is like this is what's on the PDF, and this is how it should be categorized. This is when it should be released, and so forth. We're spending a lot of time asking ourselves what part of our platform would be awesome if you just woke up and said, "Hey, Jake, this is ready," right? That's the real question there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, every CEO is trying to figure out what's their, usability of AI, whether it's going to help them make money, save money, automate a process, reduce headcount. If you're a product company, you're looking at internal tools to help you operate or maybe features for your customer base. We're hearing from investors now that they're investing in these AI companies or really companies in general. What's your strategy around how much you're able to automate your own task and role as a leader? Like
Yeah,
every quarter,
I use it every day almost.
yeah. Like what's your 20% of what you do should be automated every quarter. What are you working on now that you can show an impact and continue to delegate off and have others take on and have technology operate the business differently or better?
It's
And
a really
then
good question. Yeah. I think that like one of the main ways that like we're using AI is to get everyone to talk about our business in a similar way. Like we built an agent that can respond to RFPs. And the reason that's really important is because if you're trying, an RFP means 100K contract, right? Like that's minimum 100K contract equals RFP, which is fantastic. However, you don't want variable responses, right? You want consistent responses. And right now, like I have maybe like a Google Drive of RFPs that we've used previously, but every RFP is going to be different,
Mhm.
somewhat, right? And there's beauty in being able to say, like, hi, agent, look at these RFPs and how we've answered this. Look at these questions, answer them in the same tone and so forth. Then give it to, John, our COO, to review. After that's good, give it to our VP of sales to review. And once they both confirm it, give it to me to review. Typically, that would take like 2 weeks, right? That can be done in 30 minutes. So again, like you're asking yourself, what are terrible processes that we're doing, right?
Right.
I don't need a Slack agent to summarize my notifications.
Yeah.
It's there's just not a lot of value out there, right?
Yeah.
I already know which notifications are prioritized before they come in, right? Like that's that's it, right? Like Slack has a beautiful way to like segment your
Right.
notifications. I know what's mission critical, and I know what I should just look at when I have a break. But yeah, it's about just asking like what processes really slow down your company, and then
Yeah.
you go in that direction.
With so much content out there on the web now about agents and building agents, and I can build an agent in 25 minutes, or show me a problem that we can solve in like a couple hours, and there's so many different platforms out there. When you talk about building agents, what's your take on it? Is it like using the modern technology platforms and the tools, or is it, hey, we build in Python, we know Python, we're gonna just
Mm,
like what's working for a team that can put a hackathon out and create agents quickly or whatever the process you're trying to develop.
that's a really good question. OpenAI just launched like an agent with its own virtual desktop, which I thought was really like just awesome.
Mhm.
Look, I'll put it this way. At a very base level, we can just assume that Google, OpenAI, and Anthropic are spending way more time trying to help us build agents, right?
Mhm.
At the same time, though, there are companies like we use a tool called, I'll tell you in a second, but we use a tool to help us kind of like improve our prompting into those tools. It's called Logic. It cuts down our time, if that makes sense, to feed it data and make sure that it hallucinates less and that it's more structured. I think my best answer is just to experiment,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put it this way. The faster you experiment, the higher the probability that you'll have an answer on what ships the fastest. Now, what ships the fastest might not be the most stable, but in reality, like every CEO right now just wants to validate adoption, right? Like if you think about like Python is the most stable way to do it from our perspective, right? It's like it's reliable, like we
Mhm.
know it and so forth. But there's an opportunity to get something out the door where you're renting the logic and the software from OpenAI. You are shipping a test under a month. And if it gets picked up like wildfire, then you go build the resources around it, right? I think that's kind of the approach that I think of right now. And even like if I was starting a company from scratch, I would just focus on getting something out the door as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we're hearing that over and over, which is don't think so much about it. Just start testing and start building and see what you get, and then you learn, right?
And I think that's the thing, like I'm spending my spare time just jamming on things, right?
Right.
And I'm building things for the company and building things for myself. But I do think that like innate curiosity is very critical for that.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. As companies evolve, the leaders have to evolve. What's been an area that you felt like as a leader you've evolved when you started the company, and now how big are you in terms of employee wise today?
We're about 65 people.
Okay. So when you were at 10, it's different than at 65. What's something that you can share with other entrepreneurs that you had to really learn or maybe evolve to become as you grow?
I think at the end of the day, finding great leadership is the hardest part of a founder's job because as a founder, like our responsibility is to get people excited to come join the company, to keep the culture humming, to make the impossible happen. But in reality, you just need to have a lot of people that are better building orgs than you are perpetually. Like if you look at it, like every time you see like a board member added to a company or a new VP or a chief executive officer announced somewhere, it's someone that has experience building for that stage.
Hmm.
And your responsibility as a founder is to say, what stage of the company am I in? What leadership do I need to bring in that knows that next stage better than me? How quickly can I inject them? And can I find out within 90 days after hiring them if I made the right decision? Right? Those things are very critical.
Yeah. We talked a little bit at the beginning about delegation. You, to me, seem like someone who knows how to do that pretty well. And maybe I'm right, maybe I'm not right, but y- from your perspective, what, how have you evolved when it comes to delegating?
Yeah, I'm at a pretty good state about this right now. I actually like to use the word defer rather than delegate. So to me, delegate means I assigned you work. And to me, defer means I trust you. I don't want to think about the work.
Right.
And I like to work with people when I say, okay, that's in their wheelhouse. They will let me know when they need my help rather than like, to me, delegate is very much like, let's say we're going grocery shopping, be like, Jake, you get the veggies, I'll get the meat. I'll also pick some snacks. And if you see some ice cream, you go get it, right?
Right.
That to me is delegation,
Right.
right? I kind of like set the path for what each of us are responsible for. The flip side, I don't want to ever think if we don't have enough food at the house. Do you know what I mean? I want
Yeah.
to defer that as much as possible. I actually love grocery shopping, so that is not like a real life example, but I think is it's a very good kind of way to think about it and say, you know what, our QA process and our DevOps, I don't want to think about that, but if I need to be pulled in, I'm available, right? Our design process, let's let the team make the best recommendations. If I need to be pulled into that, I can be pulled in, right? It's a much healthier relationship too with the team.
Oh yeah, because it gives them the authority to make decisions and, do the job that you paid them to come in to do. People also feel like they want to achieve something, and if you're always micromanaging everything, they never really feel like they're, able to do that. And as leaders, maybe for smaller companies, I think it's challenging sometimes to let go, right? Like you kind of know what you want, and you're going to do it, and you're going to do as much as you can on your own, and then you're going to,
It breaks though.
yeah, at
That's
some
the thing
point.
though.
Yeah.
Like I think that that's the bottleneck, right? Like a leader will, like a founder will eventually become the bottleneck to growth.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why you need like, really good investors, really good friends, really like, you know, that's the conversation is when can you be the, accelerator rather than the bottleneck? And it is like, it is that weird transition from like 15 to 25 people to that next phase, right?
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge that you're seeing right now in the company? You've evolved, you've
Mm,
raised money, you've done well, you've
sure.
got clients. Like what's
We're
yeah.
currently at a spot where the system is stable, humming, and growing, and we need to build the next version of the system, and that's a lot of work. So the question is, how do you do that in flight? That's a lot. A lot of our conversations is we have line of sight into Routable 4.0, whatever you want to call it. Like, right? I'm just making that up. The question is, how do we get that done in under 18 months? How do we prioritize it? How do we staff it? How do we ensure excellent small features for our customers, big features for our customers, and infrastructure changes at the same time? We're really excited about it, but that's that is it right now.
Yeah, that's great. That's a good problem to have. There's companies that have other problems that are not good problems to have, which is they built products on top of, a third party platform that all of a sudden those companies are coming out with a similar function and feature and now they're out of business, or they've raised money but they can't find the people, or they're trying to find the market fit, but it's so loud and noisy out there in AI world that it's hard for them to get some footing. So I think a lot of the companies that were established way before LLMs came out, like you have a product market fit, you know what you've got, you're building, and now you can, integrate AI to make your company operate better or more efficiently or more profitably. I think in a lot of ways you're in a better position.
I'd say yes and no. Like I think like if I got to build everything from scratch, we would move so much faster, right? But every founder will tell you that. So I don't know, like it's just our situation, right? You just gotta accept it.
Yeah. Are you feeling like with AI and all these different tools and innovation happening, you keep reading about like you're like behind schedule of where you should be with adopting the technologies, or are you really in the
No.
forefront?
No, I don't think that we're behind. I'll put it this way though, like I'm envious of people that are working exclusively on that because that seems fun,
Yeah.
right? But I'm also very happy that we feel like we're at the forefront of how to use it for our industry, right? Yeah, that's all.
Yeah. What's on the roadmap? You talked about the next 18 months, you're going to become Routable 4.0 or whatever version. Is there any other functionality that you are excited about that's coming that
I mean, you will see some stablecoin from us. I think that we're just building Routable for a much larger customer that we already like support. We have some customers that are extremely large, but the demand still grows, and we want to make it so that a Fortune 1000 can make the migration extremely easy. So to me, right now, a lot of the questions are about scale, team members, compliance. It just, if you think about it, Jake, every buyer has a list trying to check as many boxes as possible.
yeah.
And with stablecoin and stuff like that, still trying to be experimental, right? So you're trying to I'd put it, you have 80% of your roadmap, which is like obvious, and then you're trying to leave in a little bit of room for, quarterly experimentations.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, exciting to hear where you're going and what's been being built, and to finally actually have a little FaceTime. I know that it's. I think out of the 10+ years we've been doing what we do, which is recruiting and helping companies grow and scale, it's. I think you connected through us through another company that we work with,
Mhm.
and way back when, and it was always like, I think you're one of the people that always responds really quick to emails, and I always felt like you were like somebody I knew really well, even though we never really spent a lot of time. I think your way of communication online is just very friendly and very engaging and very open and very honest. So I want to thank you for that because you don't always get that when you do business with anybody. So
I'll
yeah,
put it this way, we're a remote company, and for me, when I interview someone, I actually worry less about like the 30 to 60-minute interviews. I worry way more about how you communicate over email. If you think about it, 90% of my communication with most of my team is on email and Slack.
yeah,
If you're a good communicator at a very base level, you can work, right?
yeah.
People that people that are like great at their job but are terrible at communicating, I always feel bad about that, right? Like, oh man, you're so talented, but you don't know how to work with other people. That's a thing to work on constantly.
Well, you do a good job because you keep it very positive and optimistic. It always feels like even if it's something's not going to happen, it's like, "Hey, great to hear from you. Yeah, let's connect. Things are going, but there's another opportunity to do some stuff in the future, whatever it happens to be." It just always feels, I think communication can feel a certain way, and I think if you're good at mastering that, it makes people, leave with a different sense of connection.
Yeah, and I mean the other way to look at it too is just like you're on this earth for a limited amount of time. You don't know what you don't know, right? Like Jake, tomorrow you might have the strongest army of AI engineers in the world. And I just might need to call you up on that. Building our relationship over like 5 to 7 years is critical. I like to think about it from that perspective, is you don't know someone's future and you don't know someone's past. So it's just like very important to just treat everyone with the same level of just respect. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, on that note, respect back to you. And yeah, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show here. You talked about growing. Is there any roles you want to mention that, hey, if people apply direct and they're like, hey, yeah, let's connect Routable to Routable?
I know that we're hiring right now for a director of demand gen. So if anybody's interested in that, hit us up. Go from there.
Omri, where do they find you?
Routable.com, LinkedIn, Omri Mor.
There you go.
That's it. Like I don't have more places for you.
Okay, you're not on TikTok somewhere, like
No, 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 no.
there you go.
Like our marketing team really has to force me to create video content. I'll put it that way.
I hear you. Well, thanks for being forced to do it here today. I really appreciate us being able to spend some time. And for the listeners, thanks for listening. It means a lot to me. You spent your time with us. I'm your host, Jake Garrett Villarreal, signing off for now, but can't wait to catch up with you all on the next episode. Until then, Omri, the world, take care. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. And follow us on YouTube, where we go behind the scenes to learn what it takes to be a startup founder.